Hi, good morning everyone. It is currently May 29th, 2026. What I'd like to go through is an investing rationale for a company, Abbott Laboratories. I started a new position yesterday, and one of the things that I believe is that if you do start a position, you should be able to explain, why you did that. Obviously, a stock going up, isn't a reason to buy, and I just think that we should do some sort of diligence. So if nothing else, I decided to make this video so that I would know if a year from now, if I'm, in the gutter, at least I have some idea what the hell I was thinking at the time. Um, this new position, Abbott Laboratories, ticker symbol ABT, it's going to land in our gideonsGhost portfolio. That's one of our IRAs. And this is a dividending stock, so that seems appropriate. In fact, it's a dividend king. It's one of the under 75 companies, I think under 60 companies that actually qualify as a dividend king. And I mean, that's not just something nice to say about an organization. It means that for the last 50 years, they have raised their dividend consistently. Before we get started, let's do a really quick disclaimer. The information presented here is for educational, informational, and discussional purposes only. I am just a software developer and MBA. I'm currently pursuing a doctorate in business and finance, but at the same time, I'm not a licensed financial advisor, investment advisor, CPA, or fiduciary. Nothing in this presentation should be interpreted as financial, investment, tax, or legal advice, nor should anything here be taken as a recommendation to buy or sell a security or investment vehicle. All investments involve risk, including the potential loss of principal. Individuals should conduct their own research and consult qualified financial professionals before making investment decisions. I love you. I still don't know you, and I wish you luck. All right, let's get into it. Abbott Laboratories is a company that IPO'd about 90 years ago, but they've actually been around a whole lot longer, going back to the 1800s. It was founded by a Dr. Wallace Abbott, a practicing physician in Chicago. He came up with a technique for separating parts of the plants into alkaloids, into these tiny pills called alkaloidal granules. And he extracted things like morphine and strychnine. This organization today has about 115,000 employees. It trades on the New York Stock Exchange, and it works in four main business segments. It has established pharmaceutical products, and what I mean by established is they aren't out researching and coming up with the groundbreaking new drugs. They're taking the ones where maybe the patent is expired, those general accessible products, and selling those. They have diagnostic products, nutritional products, and medical devices. Some of their core products include pacemakers and implantable cardioverter defibrillators, neuromodulation devices and coronary stents, infant formula and nutritional liquids for adults, continuous glucose monitors, and immunoassays and point-of-care diagnostics. One thing that stood out to me with this organization was its global reach. As you see, it serves over 160 countries, and the majority of its revenue, actually 60% of its sales, occur outside of the United States. Okay, so let's take a real quick look at the stock price recently. I will point out that it has not been pretty whatsoever. Let's take a look at the year to date. We see that it's down 31.12%, trading at around $86, so that's very much near the lower end of its 52-week range. And, we'll look at the 5-year chart, and we see that it had two really, really nasty drop-offs here in 2026. We see it was kind of trading along, in the 120 to 130 range, and all of a sudden it just drops like someone threw it out of a window. And then it looks like they went to check and see, if it worked, and it didn't work. So they threw them out of the window again. And here we are. There are some reasons, I believe, for this to have happened. There's one of which is a legal overhang. They have some litigation in process over infant formula. The second piece that may be contributing is the street really didn't seem to like the acquisition that they recently made, and we'll talk about that here in a bit. And then the third piece is, remember when we talked about the business segments? So of the four main business segments, in their most recent earnings, two of those segments had a small decline. It was not a large decline. I would encourage you to look into the file and to collect more information. But I think those three things together really did not do any justice for Abbott Laboratories. It didn't do it any help. As I mentioned here at the very bottom, I did start a new position. So far, I mean, we're talking about a day, we're up a whole 1%. We picked up, I want to say it was 10 shares of stock. So we're, started a position just to kind of see if we want to add to it or where it may go from there. But moving on, we're going to take a look at some of the financials. Again, I am not an investment advisor. So these are metrics that popped out to me, and they're not in depth. They're not everything that I looked at. But for the point of this presentation, there were two things that I did want to call out, maybe three things. So what we're going to look at here, and there are two graphs. The top graph is going to show total revenue in green, and in blue is the total debt. And then I've set that down here. The reason why I wanted to pull these up is because I see generally three things here. I see when I'm looking at, say, the total revenue, what I see more than anything is pretty consistent movement upwards. I know that, these numbers here were up and then it kind of went down a little bit, but this is all I want to say during that COVID time. I'm not sure, but the overriding shape here is one that moves up and to the right. The second thing I see is actually one that pretty much moves down into the right. This is going to be the total debt. We see, and I'm not talking about 2015-ish. I have no idea what happened that far back, and I'm not even going to look into it. I don't care. But we start around 2017-ish or so, and what I see is the overall shape here, and there's some little bobbles like here, here, and here, but the shape is pretty much just trending all down, down, down with pretty steady consistency all the way until this what the fuck point right here in 2026. So that is an outlier. One of my general rules for outliers is whenever I see one, I try to figure out why. So a little digging, and as I mentioned earlier, Abbott Laboratories recently completed an acquisition. It was $23 billion, and it was for a company called Exact Sciences Corporation. What this will allow is for them to make further inroads into the cancer screening and diagnostic industry. Abbott would like to be a global leader in cancer screening and precision oncology diagnostics, and they believe this is a step in the right direction. Here, let's take a look at the dividend. What I'll urge you is to not be fooled, or maybe not necessarily fooled, but we see that the dividend yield is 2.92, and that is your 10-year high, which is one of the things that personally activated me. But at the same time, we always want to keep in mind that one of the reasons why that yield is increased is because the stock price has gone down. The way that we calculate dividend yield is the dividend per share, the annual dividend per share divided by the stock price. So, like I mentioned earlier in the year when Abbott was trading at higher valuations, its dividend was closer to 2%, 2.1, which is kind of more historical. Right now, it's about 2.9, I think, 2.92, and that does put it at a near 10-year peak. Okay, this is like take 844 at completing this video. I'm redoing my investing rationale. Before I get started, I do want to call out that this is my personal investing rationale. Um, I am not a financial or investment professional. These are just the reasons that, as I look at the stock, they gave me reason to think, you know what, I'm going to put some money into this and, see what goes from there. So let's get into it. As I mentioned earlier, Abbott Laboratories is a dividend king. That means that for at least the last 50 years, they have consistently increased their dividend. To kind of go along with the dividend theme, I found the entry yield to be very attractive. It's basically near a 10-year high, and even though we know the reason for that, in part being the reduction in the price of the stock, it's still a very nice yield. So those two dividend pieces definitely activated me. After that, I think that some of that sell-off again was related to the quarterly report. There were those two segments that had a decline, but they were not steep, sharp declines, and overall the organization was still representing growth, continuing. Now they're not a hyperscaler, so I mean they're not going to be doing 20 or 30% a year. They're doing less than 10, but to me it seemed consistent, and I was not worried about those two segments that had a bit of a downturn. And then finally, one of the core arguments that I had, or that I make for this to myself, is that this is to an extent a mean reversion play. Whenever a stock drops precipitously, we want to understand why, and if we don't believe that there's a reason for it to continue forever or on a very drawn out basis, then it may be a fair assumption to believe that it's going to revert a little bit to the mean and kind of get back to that state of equilibrium. So those were the rationale, or the reasons for me personally investing in Abbott Laboratories. Thank you all very much. I think this one's probably going to be a little bit choppy because of the bad audio. I've recorded this video once and the audio was absolutely horrible. I was going to go ahead and just put it out there, but then I figured, you know what, if someone's going to take the time to listen to my foolishness, I should at least give it my best effort. Well, not that I wasn't giving an effort with the discussion, but with the audio quality. So I re-recorded it, and I hope it worked out. You all have a very nice weekend, or if you're watching this on another day, have a very nice rest of that particular day. And also, whenever your weekend gets there, I hope you enjoy that too. Take care.